writing down your goals on paper makes you 7 times more likely to achieve it. And if you create an action plan to achieve that goal, it's an additional 7 times more likely that you will get there.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our show. My name is Jenny Woon.
I'm Tony Singh.
And we have Jessica Kuan here, founder of My Money Mindset Planner. She's here today to talk about how you can control your finances and take your planner anywhere where you go to track spending on a daily, weekly, biweekly, and monthly schedule. Welcome to our show, Jess.
Thank you so much, Jenny and Tony, for having me. I'm super excited.
Thank you.
So our first question, to kick us off, just so that we get to know you a bit better, what is your superpower?
I would say a superpower and weakness almost, but for some reason, I just never feel like I can stop working. It's truly, it's like if there's something that I want to do, I'm going to go after it and I'm going to do it. So I tend to, and will dabble in so many things. Like if you ask me what's on my plate right now, there's a million things going on. Whether it's doing mortgages, doing my planner, trying to start a travel blog, managing my properties. There's always so many things. So yeah, it's almost, I would say superpower is I can handle a lot and take on a lot and I want to do a lot, but it's definitely a weakness too because it's a lot to handle.
Yeah. We've touched on being an overachiever, multitasker, how that's like definitely a superpower, but also, it's hard to also let go and relax too, right? So
Mhm.
leading up to that, then share a little bit about yourself and your background. Sounds like you have a very good background in finances. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been a mortgage broker, a full-time mortgage broker for just over 6 years now. I have a team with my business partner. We're called Signature Mortgages. We're under Clear Trust Mortgages. So I've been doing that for about 6 years. And about less than a year ago, I started Money Mindset Planner. So I'm the creator of and owner of My Money Mindset Planner, which you guys have already mentioned in the introduction. It is a financial planner. So it helps someone budget on a bi-weekly and a monthly basis.
Jessica, just out of curiosity, where are you based out of?
Vancouver, born and raised.
Oh, a local girl.
Yeah.
What inspired you to, it's one thing to like plan your own finances and budget, but what inspired you to create one so that you can help others?
Yeah. So I didn't grow up in a family that talked a lot about finances. I remember when I was 18, I cashed out my first term deposit and I thought, wow, this is what investing is like. I grew up being taught that a TFSA was a savings account, that bonds were the safest and best investments, and that an RSP is for when you retire. But I didn't really know and didn't really understand what these investment vehicles were, what the benefits were, and how to use it to its full advantage. And I remember I had gone to the bank, I set up multiple meetings trying to get someone to teach me what, what is a TFSA? What should I invest in? And all I got was a push to invest in mutual funds and GICs. And it was because that was my risk portfolio. But what is my risk portfolio? I didn't even understand that. So it really pushed me to start researching and learning from others who were really investing themselves. I remember a couple networking events and I met some females there that one, if she ever listens to the podcast, she'll know exactly who she is. But 20-minute conversation with her, I learned so much. And that got me to start researching more and more. And understanding, okay, what's the good and the bad of a mutual fund? What is an ETF? What are stocks? What are dividend stocks? And I came to realize that there's just so much to know. And at my age right now, I'm teaching my mom about investing.
Mhm.
And for her, like she didn't have access to any of this information. She came here with English as her second language. So I knew that if I didn't know these things and my mom didn't know these things and she's learning it now, there's probably a lot of people out there that also don't know either. And when I became a mortgage broker, that really confirmed that. I would have so many
Mhm.
conversations with clients about investments. And it wasn't advice that I was giving them, it was just sharing knowledge. And I was very surprised that, people, so many people are still using their TFSA as a savings account and they still don't
Mhm.
really know what is a TFSA, what's the full advantage of it, right? So in 2020 and 2021, I spent a lot of time with my clients, my close friends, and my family, and I was actually doing a lot of budget sheets for them. I was really passionate about talking about it and how I like to budget, what was working for me, what I'm invested in, and how it could help them. And the feedback I always got was, okay, this is actually so much easier to understand and it's actually quite simple. And I realized that there's just so much information online that it's difficult to figure out where to start or how to start. And this sparked me into wanting to share what I knew because I learned from others and without listening to them, taking their feedback and doing kind of like my own trial and error, I wouldn't be where I am. So I thought if I could create a basic budgeting planner, one that can get someone interested in saving more money and feeling more in control of their spendings, this could truly lead to bigger things for them because it did for me. And I
Mhm.
wanted to be able to pass on that knowledge to them.
Mm.
Mm.
Amazing. Which I was going to ask this question later, but you brought up that you didn't really talk too much about your financing and budgeting as you're growing up, and then you started wanting to share how to budget with your friends and family. And so, how did they take that? Like, were they shy to kind of share their financial position, or was that not even like? Did you even actually get into like real numbers as case studies, or was it more like, here's how you budget?
Um, so with actually some of my clients, it's hard. It's easy because I already know their whole financial picture, more or less. With my family, it's easy, but my family and I are so close. So it's easy to just for them to kind of tell me most of everything. And then
Hmm.
just kind of setting out like this is kind of the percentage budgeting on a monthly basis that you can start doing and start considering. There's definitely some family members or some friends that don't want to, and that's totally fine. And that's when I'm like, okay, here's the planner. You know, you can
Yeah.
review it and see what you like to do. Just ask me questions.
Yeah. And talking about the planner, what are some of the key features that make your planner unique and effective in comparison to other planners that are out on the market?
Yeah. So I love that it's undated. So it makes it easy for anyone to start at any time, not just in January. It
Hmm.
also has the option of budgeting based on paydays. So biweekly or monthly if you prefer. It also does get you to journal your thoughts and your feelings towards your money. And it
Mm.
does also include a weekly planner. So it's not just, only budgeting, but I actually use it on a day-to-day basis. And I've actually gotten a lot of feedback from people saying that they actually love that it's a budgeting planner that includes a weekly planner. And that weekly planner is for you to actually plan out your days. So you can write out, okay, this is my task list for today that I need to do. And then my favorite part, and I would say the most unique part of the planner is the end of it. There's a section where it includes definitions and basic investment and home buying terminology. So I
Mhm.
go over things like what is a TFSA, what is an RSP, breakdown of ETFs, stocks, GICs, bonds, and then it even goes over some first time home buyer benefits for people living in BC. So
Mhm.
that to me is kind of that end part is where I want people to dive into. And that's kind of that basic foundation to start investing and saving. Because with so many conversations that I had with friends and family, it's hard to understand these differences. So
Hmm.
I put it in there and try to make it as simple as possible to understand.
Mm. And so, would you say that, okay, so I guess this, based on the definitions, then it's primarily Canadians that purchase the planner?
It's only available in Canada.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you speak about the role of mindset and psychology in achieving financial goals, um, especially when one's dealing with today's economy and affordability conditions like groceries and things like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that, yeah, living in Vancouver is not cheap, and grocery prices every time we go in, it just seems more and more expensive. Um, I mean, every news article that we read right now is about headline inflation increasing or how gas prices have dropped a little bit, but we're expecting it to go up even more in the next month. And all of this information can be so overwhelming. And easily, I think we can get into that mindset that we can't afford to do this or that. We can get into that mindset of I could never afford to buy real estate here, or I could never afford to take a vacation. But I'm a strong believer that you can do something. It just requires you to set a goal and a realistic game plan. And that is how you get into your money mindset. And this is where you have to face going through your finances. And it might not be pretty. There are times, even for me, where I get busy and I haven't budgeted and I know I've overspent what I wanted. And I don't want to go and open up my planner and face that ugly truth. But I know in order to get organized, the first step is just facing the truth and accepting that is the past. You've done it, you've spent the money, and then figure out, okay, what is the plan to move forward and what is the goal? Is
Mhm.
it to take a trip to Europe for 2 weeks? And what's the average cost? And how much per month would I need to set aside per paycheck? And will that mean a shift in my day to day spendings? So I truly believe that facing and understanding your financial situation, organizing it, and then setting a plan will help you achieve those financial goals. And where there are rainy days, you won't feel so stressed about it.
Mhm. Conversations between couples can be so challenging, and sometimes it comes with a lot of like embarrassment, and am I contributing more or less than my partner? How has this planner helped couples and families kind of, I guess, effectively communicate with each other so that they can manage their finances and meet their goals together?
Yeah. Um, I do think it's about facing the truth, being honest, and creating a plan together or individually. As a couple, you have to have financial goals together. It's not just one person hauling both of you to the finish line. It has to be both contributing, whether it's one who might be bringing more income and saving, or the other who's helping to reduce expenses. I
Mhm.
personally love conversations with about money, and I think getting comfortable talking about it can lead to more action taking in investing, saving, and being more mindful. For me and my
Mhm.
husband, we actually keep our finances very separate. We only have one house account, and we each budget exactly what we agreed to transfer into that account to ensure that our mortgages are being paid and that we have an emergency fund for those rainy days. So when those levies come up, we already have those funds set aside. Even though it's separate, we have a pretty good idea of what each of our goals and budget plan is. It's slightly different, but it works for the both of us. And how we know about each other's goals is we actually, every single year in the beginning, we set them together. So we put it on a piece of paper and we set goals we plan to work on together. And then we also write down our goals that we plan to work on individually. And that's to hold each other
Mhm.
accountable. So the planner will help each individual stay on track, but a part of the planner includes a little goal sheet. And that's actually one that's very similar to the one that my husband and I use on an annual basis. So we
Mhm.
post it in our wall in our house so that we can look at each other, look at it every day and basically ask each other, okay, how far off are you on your goals and where are we on our goals? And not all of it has to be financial. Like some of it could
Mhm.
just be wanting to make sure we clean the house every 2 weeks, right? So in the planner, I actually do include a little goal sheet, and that's for hopefully couples to use and put that little piece of paper on their wall. And then each of them hopefully will have their own individual planner so that they can actually work on their own individual goals. At the end of the day, I think
Mm.
you have to work on your own individual goals to then bring together the goals that you wanted to work on together. Yeah. So I
That's a
think,
great strategy.
yeah. And that basic knowledge component that's at the end of the planner, um, again, I put that in there because I think that's the basic foundation. I think what I've seen is a lot of couples don't like to talk about money, and it's because they don't like to show their weakness, that they don't know a lot, right? And it's okay not to know. None of us are born knowing how to do things. Like, I didn't know how to budget, I didn't know how to save. I didn't grow up in a family that liked to talk about finances, but I wanted someone to have access to a little planner where they can write down their thoughts and their feelings about money, but they can also start
Mhm.
gaining the basic knowledge, and then that will allow them to start dabbling into investments and learn more about, like, through doing or through researching, so that they can start getting the confidence to then talk about money with each other within the family.
Yeah, that's a great system. Brings people together and builds a trust, right? And vulnerability.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, the planner itself, it's a physical planner. It like hard copy.
Yeah.
What's the difference between someone who is like writing down their goals and their money and managing money like in writing versus using like a digital tool like maybe like a Google sheet or something or an Excel sheet?
Yeah. I have always been a pen to paper person, but I also use Excel too. And I've actually had quite a few people reach out to me, have asked if I'm going to have a digital planner, and I'm still,
Mhm.
it's up in the air for me. I can't decide if I really want to. My reason is because I've heard, actually, if you even Google this too, it's been said that writing down your goals on paper makes you 7 times more likely to achieve it. And if you create an action plan to achieve that goal, it's an additional 7 times more likely that you will get there. So for
Mhm.
me, that's why I wanted a physical planner. I want people to really actually write down their goals, um, and continue being able to open up a planner and look into it to see how far have I come, right? I think there's
Mhm.
really something about writing numbers down. I think being able to scribble it down, jot down your thoughts, is important. Each paycheck budget or monthly budget sheet gets you to journal about your thoughts and feelings towards your budgets and finances. I wanted something physical so people could write on it, so they like, you can open up day to day and just look inside. It's almost like
Mhm.
a little diary. It's, you see month to month, like how far you've come, or, in this case, it's like how far have I saved? How much have I saved? And it's nice to write down those numbers. So, um, yeah, that's kind of why I decided to go physical, and I'm still not sure about digital yet.
Sounds like the process of breaking down like your paychecks and then putting into budgets is like very manageable steps, especially with the 7 tabs that you like all the different sections that you have. Um, I guess obviously every person's like income level, budget and expenses and requirements and priorities are very different. What like I guess is there like kind of a rule of thumb of like if you have a paycheck, what percentage of that goes to uh, like core expenses like rent and or mortgage, and then what goes towards um, car, what goes towards food, what goes towards the rainy day. Is there like maybe like a range that you would give to each, and it all adds up to 100%?
Yeah, there's no rule of thumb. I think everyone's a little bit different. I even, like, I think on my Instagram page, I like shared mine, and I remember my husband was like, "Well, that's very different. That's very high if you're like that you're saving." And he's like, "Most people, I think, are it's like as long as you're doing 20% or something like that." And I was like, "Well, everyone's very different, right? Different goals, especially." Um, in the beginning of the planner, there's actually a step by step guide to teach someone how to effectively use the planner. I do have a video on Instagram that also walks you through it, and I do actually plan to film a full tutorial. But the beginning of the planner does actually make you sit down and go over your statements. And
Mhm.
you actually have to figure out, okay, how much net income are you taking home? And then it makes you write down, your expenses over a period of time. So you figure out the average. And then as a percentage, you figure out, okay, as a percentage of my net income, this is how much I'm spending on average on a monthly basis. So it makes
Mhm.
you look at that. And then it
Mhm.
also does get you to consider opening up different bank accounts for different
Mhm.
Mm.
purposes. So
Okay.
one might be for traveling. One might be, and for those who are self-employed, it's going to be taxes, right? And then one will be for maybe down payment, whatever it may be. And as a percentage of your income, each paycheck, you transfer money into those accounts. So the beginning of the planner kind of gets you to do that. And that way, that reason why I wanted people to do percentage budgeting as well is because I think this was actually something I realized I needed to do was when I took my car for car servicing when I was younger. And I remember anytime I got the invoice, I was like, oh, I have to draw money from my savings account to pay for this.
Mhm.
And then I realized, okay, if I do budget for my car, like I know roughly how much my car is going to cost me on an annual basis. For every paycheck, I just take a percentage of the money into a car account. When these invoices come where I have to do my car maintenance, I already have money set aside.
Right.
So I feel like I might have digressed there a little bit, but yeah.
No.
Do you
What tips would you offer or techniques for really like setting realistic goals and tracking them? Because um, I think people are really just scraping by the paycheck, and does $5 each paycheck make sense? $10, like 100, like does it need to be like $100 for someone to make it worthwhile to open an account? Because opening an account also costs money too.
um, I would say it is absolutely worthwhile. Like I think it's being able to open up these accounts. And there's so many accounts that you can actually open that are free and have really good return. Like I'm not saying this because I'm not sponsored by them, but like EQ Bank, for example, amazing savings account. You can open up 5 free accounts, and I believe their savings account interest rate is 2.5% right now. Just savings, no fees, anything. Right? You're not going to find that anywhere with a big bank. So even if it's just a little bit, like travel accounts, for example. If you're taking a 2 week vacation and you might be budgeting on average $3,000 for the whole year, on a month to month basis, it's not going to be that much. And on a paycheck to paycheck basis, it's not going to be that much. But it's
Mhm.
just that little bit of percentage budgeting and moving it into that account so that you're not actually
Mhm.
drawing from savings. Because, yes, you could easily say, okay, well, traveling, it's not going to cost me that much on an annual basis. So I'll just draw it from my savings, right? But then
Mhm.
you're never going to want to invest that money in your savings account because you're always going to have to think about, well, I have to make sure I have money for my travels, right? So you're going to be
Mhm.
protecting that money and probably leaving it in something very secure, not earning as much interest as it potentially could, right? You might not want to invest into your RSP or your TFSA because you know you're going to need that money. But if you just create that travel account, for example, and just start putting money aside into that account, you at least have that money ready to go when you need to book that trip. And then you're not getting into the habit of touching your savings. It becomes a habit where
Mhm.
that savings account for the money you are setting aside for savings, you never want to withdraw any money from there because it's almost becomes it's like not a good feeling, right? And it just becomes
Mhm.
addicting to just want to continue increasing that account than seeing anything come out of it. Yeah, but I do think
Mhm.
going to your question about tips is really you have to sit down and figure out as a percentage of your income how much are you spending for variable costs, meaning shopping,
Mm.
groceries, and then your fixed costs, and that's your housing costs. And you should have a housing account, and that's where all your strata fees, your property taxes, your mortgage payments are going to be coming out of the account, so that you can keep track. So if you do have a increase in your strata, you can just quickly look at that account. It's not mixed in with anything else, right? And then from there, you can have your savings goals. Okay, I want to travel or I want to buy real estate. I need to save down payment as a percentage of my income. How much do I need to set aside? With the variable, the fixed, and the savings, the percentage should all add up to 100%.
I have 2 questions. First question, on average, what would you suggest for like, if you have 1 bank account, for example, let's say it's at Van City, what's the maximum number of accounts within that account, that you would recommend in terms of savings?
In terms of like
Does
just
that make
savings.
sense? So or no, so if we're allocating a certain percentage of each paycheck, to different things. So let's say the fixed costs of housing, variable costs for groceries and kids items, that kind of stuff. How many accounts would you typically see within 1 bank account?
Yeah,
Mm.
I would say, in my opinion, I would imagine you should have at least 5.
Okay. I know I was thinking the same thing, but I just wanted to ask.
Because like
Mhm.
right away you have, your housing, your variable expenses. I'm self-employed, so I have a tax account, and then I have
Mhm.
my savings account, and then I have one that is for travel.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm.
And as you know, financial goals can definitely evolve over time. So, does your planner accommodate for changes in things like um, future financial journey or future goals?
Yes. So I would say on a monthly basis, there is a check-in on the
Mm.
planner, to see how you're doing. Being that it is on paper and it's undated, you can honestly make adjustments at any time. There'll probably be a lot of scribbling around, but you can definitely make adjustments as your priorities and as your goals change. But on a monthly basis, we do in the planner, it does kind of check in on you to see how things are going.
Mhm.
Mhm. And as far as like you as a mortgage broker, let's chat a little bit about like how people are saving nowadays. And with the pricing in Vancouver, where are you seeing most people are getting their down payment? Like,
Mhm.
are they actually saving up this money themselves, or are they asking gifts from their mom and dad? Are they inheriting it? Where are you, the majority of your clients, where are you seeing that pattern?
It's quite a mixture. I would say that, quite honestly, we've seen a lot more gifted down payments over the last little bit. And it's just because saving for a down payment, if you are just buying individually one income, can be quite difficult. When we
Mhm.
see two applicants, that's where we see less gifted down payment and more of down payment coming from personal savings. We
Mm.
definitely see more and more buyers that are doing less than 20% down as well. Yeah.
Ah, okay. And um, are you seeing that with the rising interest costs at the moment, are they more so trying to scrounge up more down payment to keep the amount that they're approved for, or are you seeing they're willing to compromise on their criteria?
No, they are scrounging for more down payments.
Okay, so they're not
Yeah,
willing to compromise.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
interesting,
And
right?
I
That is
think,
very interesting.
yeah, what I see too is it, more and more people are staying in their homes longer. Um, I
Yeah.
Mhm.
think a couple years ago, like it was so um, common to see people start considering to move after 2, 3 years. It was like
Mm,
people constantly upsizing, right? But now I'm seeing
mhm.
more and more people just hold on to their property, and I think that's also why people aren't willing to budge on their criteria is because
Mhm.
they want something that they can actually live in for a longer period of time.
Mhm.
Makes sense. Yeah. I guess even the older homes, like dens or like flex spaces weren't as popular. Like they would have larger square footage, but only like 2 bedroom, 2 bath.
Mhm.
And sometimes that open space is kind of it's not private enough for like a den, like home office. So I'm finding like nowadays they're building smaller square footage with the den or flex space or even like a storage because most of the times a lot of the homes don't come with storage downstairs. So they end up moving the storage upstairs. And then there's
I think that's a product for sure of what everyone experienced during COVID too, right? If you had a young family and you were in a 2-bedroom condo, but most of the square footage was an open concept, very difficult to get away from the kids to be able to do your work.
Yeah.
So we've seen similar changes, I guess, in buyer wants as well for what they're purchasing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So true. So, describe the planner. It's hard copy, but it looks like super easy to use with the coil and the binding.
Mm.
Yeah, I have it
Like, how
here.
did you come
I'll
up with
show you guys.
the? Yeah, let's see.
So here it
Awesome.
is.
Yep.
Yeah, it's super. I mean, I'll be honest, it's a thick planner. But I couldn't figure out how I wanted to reduce the pages because there's just so much that I wanted to include. But yeah, pretty much, you get your budgeting in the beginning. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where you do have to go over your statements. There are savings and debt trackers that you can use.
Mm.
And this goes from January all the way until December. So you can write
Mm-hmm.
down what your starting balance is and on a monthly basis, how many deposits have you made and are you making any withdrawals from that account? So you can
Mm-hmm.
keep track of that. And then it does have undated monthly calendar with every week you can write down your to-dos and write down your tasks. And then this is kind of what the paycheck budget looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
I feel like as a person that's like
Yeah.
personal real estate corporation, like I have like 50 lines that I would need to handwrite out. And that to me is already like
Overwhelming.
overwhelming. But it needs to be done because obviously
Yeah.
it gives a bigger picture, of how your business model is looking.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like, I agree with you. There's only so many lines I can also put in there too, so it's tight. What I typically do is, instead of writing every single expenses, I actually I categorize them. So I go
Smart.
into like, okay,
Okay.
these are my meals, and then I go through my credit card statement and I add up all the meals for those 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Um, where can our listeners find you and find more information about the Money Mindset Planner to get their journey started towards better financial management?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. It's at Money Mindset Planner, or you can check out my website, which is www.moneymindsetplanner.ca. On my website, it actually has a link to Amazon, so you can actually order through Amazon. And if you have Prime, even better. I'm also on Etsy, and then I do try to participate at some in-person events. So I'm actually doing an event next Friday with Van City Business Babes. So I will be set up there to sell my planners in person.
Yeah, I was going to
Awesome.
actually mention that. I saw that post, which is amazing. I'm wondering if you would ever think about going into high schools.
Yes. I should have actually also mentioned this. So when I started the planner, I started creating it back in January. We are in 2023 now. So I actually started in January 2022. And
Hmm.
what actually really pushed me, because I actually almost thought I wasn't going to really do this. I was actually invited to a high school to talk about mortgages to a bunch of
Mm.
grade 12s. And they were so interested, not about mortgages. They were asking me things like, when can I open up a TFSA? Um, like, what is a
Oh.
TFSA? How much down payment do you think I'll need in order to buy a home? So it's a lot of questions about how to save money. And that was, again, when I realized, okay, there's so much information that people want to know, but they just don't know where to get it. And we're not being taught about this at school, right? And you walk into a bank and
Mm-hmm.
they might not share this information with you because they have to be very careful with what they choose to say, right? So, yes, in high school, I would love to, yeah. And yeah, having presented in the high school, it truly was kind of what sparked me to really want to continue to do this.
Amazing. What is the cost to purchase the planner?
So regularly it's $52.99. It's on sale right now for $45, or you can purchase two for $82.
Amazing. Yeah.
I'm excited about, I like budgeting and planning with finances and things like that. So I should definitely snag myself a copy because it's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm going to get both
To
your
someone like me.
addresses after this. I'm going to send you both a copy.
Oh, thank you so
Thank
much. I'm so
you.
excited.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Maybe we'll even
use it. We could use it.
We could use it. Put another podcast out with you in person. Come in person to our next podcast, and then you could take a look at our finances and
Did we do it correctly?
Give us a little grade. Give us a grade on it.
Oh my gosh. So that's awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. So Jessica, we normally end off with 5 rapid fire questions for fun. Do you have 2 more minutes to spend with us?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. This is a great question. If someone had $200,000 to put down on a property, where would you recommend that person purchase?
Where should they purchase?
Where or what, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, $200,000.
Where should they put that 100,000 towards, or
200,000
200,000?
towards?
Ooh, I would probably say buy a. Ooh, this is a good one. I would probably buy a house. It probably would not be. It might be in BC if you can find something. I'm not talking about Greater Vancouver area. I don't know if you can even get a house in Kelowna anymore, but perhaps even Alberta. Actually, can I say there's 2 things I would do?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. One is a house, and that would be probably a full rental. The other thing I would do, if you can't find something that you like that's for $1 million, is actually I'd probably put it towards a condo in Kelowna or downtown Vancouver, and I would Airbnb it.
Okay, good. We were just talking about that right before you came on. We should do an Airbnb segment. Jessica, what is your favorite gadget or tool under $100?
Gadget or tool under $100? A shoehorn?
That's under $100. Yeah.
I don't even own one, actually.
What?
Tony?
How do you put your shoe on?
Sorry. I know, right? Sometimes you do need them. Where is your favorite city or country to travel to?
Rome, definitely.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Love Rome.
Me too.
Yeah. Good pizza. 3 words to describe yourself.
I would consider myself very hardworking. I am very, how do I say this, but in a nicer way to myself? I can be very opinionated. I have a lot of thoughts and whatnot. And I would say I can be pretty spontaneous. If you ask me to book a trip with you the next couple of weeks, I'll probably do it.
That's because Jessica has the savings for it.
That's right. She's got the travel account. Final question. What career would you be in if you were not a mortgage specialist? If you were not a mortgage specialist?
Yes. I know this one. I would say that I would love and still want to, working on it, is just travel blogging.
Oh, yeah.
So fun.
Yeah.
Her and her husband, I don't know if you follow Jess, but yeah, she has great pictures all the time.
You know, I'm not really on social.
That means that she's she's got a really good Instagram hubby.
Okay.
I do have a question that's not rapid fire, but it's so important about debt versus savings. And I know that a lot of mortgage brokers and planners always say it's better to get rid of your debt than to have that money in savings. And so your take on when someone's trying to get financial approval for a loan or a mortgage. Why is it that they want to see the debt down and with no savings versus very little savings and a huge debt?
Yeah, this is super dependent when we look at applications, whether or not we advise a client to pay off debt. Like we've met clients that say, well, don't worry, I'm going to pay this off. I just know that it's better for me to pay this off. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's not necessarily true. The reason why someone might advise it is because banks look at your monthly payment. And that is what affects affordability for your mortgage. So paying that off
Mhm.
could actually help really increase your affordability, right? If let's say you have like a $2,000 car loan left on the balance, but your payment's $700, yes, you should definitely pay
Right.
that off because that $700 per
Mhm.
month debt payment is really going to affect your application. In a case where
Okay.
you actually have the choice of, hey, should I pay off this debt or should I keep it in my savings? Um, I always tell the clients it's really going to actually depend on how much interest you're paying on the debt and how much interest you're earning on your savings deposit, right? Like
Mhm.
back when rates were 1.8%, it actually made truly financial sense to put less down payment on a home because there's a good chance that you're going to be able to find an investment that's going to yield a much higher return than 1.8%, right? So then you're really getting your
Mhm.
money to work. So this question, I would say it depends on the situation. But the reason why I would say most people say pay off your debts when you're applying for a mortgage is just that debt load could have a pretty big effect on your affordability.
Mhm.
Mhm. Okay. Thanks for
Good
answering that.
advice.
Yeah. Well, Jessica Kuan, we really appreciate you creating this fantastic planner for everybody to use. With everybody's busy schedules, we always lose sight of our financial goals and we lose track of our spending. We're just trying to keep up with the Kardashians, is what they
Yeah.
call it, right? So my money mindset planner .ca or the IG account is at money mindset planner. Basically order one online. It's $45, correct?
On special right
$45
now,
on
right?
It's
special.
$45 on special right now. And regularly it's $52.99. And when I do in-person events, I actually do usually an even bigger special, just because then I don't have to deal with shipping.
Bring them back.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll talk to you very soon with our grades, right? At our
Yeah,
next episode. Okay.
absolutely.
Yes.
Thanks,
Thank
Thanks,
you so much,
Jessica.
you
Jessica.
guys. Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.